KT, thank you for talking to us. I know most of our audience knows you as the Fox News national security analyst. What they may not know is that you served in the Reagan administration, Ford administration, Nixon administration as a national security expert. You took time off after those tours of duty, so to speak.
Yes, the scary thing.
That's right. To go home and do another tour of duty and raise your family.
Yes.
Why did you get back involved?
My story was that I had started out as age 18 working for Henry Kissinger in the Nixon administration. So I had a terrific start in my career, and I had a big Washington career. Nixon, Ford, Reagan administration, highest ranking woman at the Pentagon, did great graduate work at Oxford, MIT. And then in 1985, I fell in love. I got married, I moved to New York, and my husband and I raised 5 kids. So I'm living the nice life, right? Stay-at-home mom, baking cookies, volunteering at the school library, more concerned with who's getting elected class mother than who's getting elected to Congress. And then September 11th happened. I dropped my younger, of the 5, the younger 2 kids off at school and went to Lower Manhattan, and I watched those 2 planes go into those 2 towers and realized that this is the challenge for the rest of my life. I mean, I had been in government. We had won our war, which was the Cold War, which President Reagan and the Reagan Revolution, we won without firing a shot. But there's another war, and that's the radical Islam.
And that's a long war that we're continuing to fight
today. It's a long war, and we haven't figured out how to fight it yet. Now, this is why it's such a critical issue, because we've spent 15 years since September 11th, with the best of intentions, Republicans, Democrats, liberal Republicans, conservative Republicans. We haven't figured out how to do it. We've had 2 land wars in the Middle East, and we haven't won either one of them. President Obama's ignored the whole thing, and that's gotten even worse. So if you can, and there's plenty of blame to go around. I'm not saying whose fault this, and I don't care about fault. At this point, I'm looking, how do you fix it future?
There's so much going on. We could talk about a lot of things, but let's specifically talk about what's happening in Europe. You're really concerned about what you see happening there.
Here's what I think is the biggest problem. So the Middle East is on fire, and refugees and migrants, some are refugees, some are migrants looking for better opportunities. The Europeans opened their doors, not understanding what they were opening it to. And there is now a refugee invasion that's happening in Europe. And the Europeans don't know how to deal with it. So Europe, the European Union, which was created 40 years ago by the European countries to be a common market, a common currency. You didn't need a passport to go from France to Germany. Trade, commerce, transportation, communication would go across borders, and they would be a European Union, sort of like an early United States of America, United States of Europe. And now what's happened is, as the migrants have come, country after country in Europe is saying, hey, wait a minute, they don't have jobs, we can't assimilate them, there's a very different cultural background from them to us, and we see a real crisis coming. So we're putting up walls, and you're going to see in the next year, as more and more, millions more migrants come to Europe, the European Union is going to start putting up those walls and say, not here, go there. And my real concern is not just that it's an economic crisis in Europe, that it's a refugee crisis in Europe,
what
but potentially a terrorist
what's
crisis.
The fallout of all of that?
Well, what I think is going to happen within a year is you're going to have hundreds of thousands of young Muslim men roaming around Europe, stateless, homeless, no jobs. No state will give them the benefits that the social welfare benefits, because the states can't afford them. And they can't go back home. And so I think you've got a real powder keg. I mean, it's like a time bomb that's about to explode in Europe.